My stepbrother slept with my girlfriend while I was taking care of my dying mother. They both said it just happened and they feel terrible. So, I cut them both off completely. They dated for a year, then she cheated on him with his cousin. He called me crying, asking for help and a place to crash. I said, "Sounds like it just happened," and hung up. Mutual friends tell me they're both miserable. Good, sup Reddit. My stepbrother hooked up with my girlfriend while I was literally watching my mom die in a hospital room. They claimed it just happened, and they felt terrible. Fast forward a year, she cheated on him with his cousin using the exact same excuse. He called me begging for help. I gave him the same energy he gave me. Now they're both spiraling and mutual friends think I'm cruel. Let me tell you why I don't care. I'm Nathan, 28, male, and I work as a project manager for a commercial construction company. Decent money, steady work, own my townhouse outright because I've been grinding since I was 19. No college degree, just certifications and experience. Started as a site assistant making $12 an hour. Worked my way up through pure hustle. The construction industry isn't glamorous. You're up at 5 a.m., coordinating with subcontractors, dealing with permit issues, managing budgets that change weekly, and handling clients who think they know better than the engineers. I spent years learning the business from the ground up. Started as the guy who fetched coffee and made copies. Worked my way through every position until I understood how projects actually get built. By 25, I was managing small commercial projects, strip malls, office renovations, that kind of thing. By 27, I was handling multi-million-dollar developments. The pay reflected the responsibility. I cleared 6 figures last year, which felt surreal considering I grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment where we counted pennies. My mom, Linda, raised me solo after my dad bailed when I was 6. She worked 2 jobs, morning shift at a dental office, evenings at a call center. We didn't have much, but what we had was solid. She taught me that loyalty isn't just a word, it's action. That your word means everything. That family sticks together no matter what. I remember being 8 years old, watching her come home at 11 p.m. from her second shift, exhausted, but still making time to help me with homework. She never complained, never made me feel like a burden, never acted like our situation was anything but normal. When other kids had both parents at school events, she made sure to be there twice as loud, twice as supportive. She sacrificed everything for me. Turned down dates because she didn't want to bring random men around her kid. Worked holidays so I could have presents under our tiny tree. Went without new clothes for years so I could have the school supplies I needed. Everything she did for me. When I was 15, Mom married Greg. Nice enough guy. Worked in logistics. Had a son from his first marriage named Jared, who was 13 at the time. Jared was this hyper kid who wanted to be everyone's best friend. Always talking, always trying to impress people. Never really thinking before he acted. Greg was the opposite of my deadbeat dad. Showed up when he said he would. Kept his promises. Treated my mom like she deserved to be treated. He wasn't trying to be my dad. I already had enough abandonment issues with the original model, but he was a solid presence, reliable, steady. The wedding was small, just close family and a few friends. Mom wore this cream-colored dress she'd saved up for months to buy. She looked happy, actually happy. Not the tired but smiling version I'd seen for years. That's when I knew Greg was different. Jared and I shared a room for 3 years until I moved out at 18. It was cramped. 2 twin beds, 1 small closet. His stuff everywhere because he was a slob. But we made it work. Played video games together, went to the same high school, normal stepbrother stuff. We weren't super close, but we weren't enemies either. Just 2 guys who happened to share a family. He was the kind of kid who made friends easily. Always had people around. Always got invited to parties. Always seemed to float through life without effort. Meanwhile, I was working part-time at a hardware store and studying for my GED because I dropped out junior year to work more hours. Different paths, different priorities. I didn't judge him for being social, and he didn't judge me for being serious. It worked. When I moved out at 18, we stayed in touch. Not daily calls or anything, but we'd see each other at family dinners, text occasionally about games or sports. Normal stepbrother relationship. I thought we were solid. Thought that even though we weren't blood, We had each other's backs. Turns out I was wrong about that. Fast forward to last year. I'd been dating Riley for 2 years at that point. Met her through work. She was the office manager at one of our contractor partners. Smart, organized, had her life together. We clicked immediately. Our first date was supposed to be coffee, turned into dinner, then drinks, then walking around downtown until 2 a.m., just talking. She had this way of making even boring stories sound interesting, of making me feel like what I said actually mattered. After years of being invisible to most women, Riley saw me. She was the kind of person who made plans and stuck to them. Had a 5-year career roadmap, knew exactly what she wanted, never played games. I respected that. She respected that I worked 60-hour weeks and didn't complain when I was exhausted. We talked about getting engaged, maybe buying a bigger place together. Riley came from money, not rich, but comfortable. Her parents had paid for college, helped with her first car, gave her a safety net I'd never had. Sometimes I felt insecure about that, me with my working-class background, her with her degree and professional network, but she never made me feel less than. Said she liked that I'd built everything myself, that I understood the value of hard work. Looking back, I wonder if that was genuine or just what I wanted to hear. We moved fast. Within 6 months, we were staying at each other's places most nights. Within a year, we were splitting rent on my townhouse. It felt right, like we were building towards something real. Marriage, kids, eventually the whole package. Her parents liked me well enough. Never loved that their daughter was dating a guy without a degree, but they appreciated that I owned property and had a career trajectory. Her mom would make little comments about when you go back to school, like it was inevitable. But I let it slide. Riley and I had our issues like any couple. She wanted more spontaneity. I needed structure. She loved social events. I preferred quiet nights at home. She spent money freely. I tracked every dollar. But we made it work, compromised, communicated. All the things healthy relationships are supposed to do. Then Mom got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months to live, maybe 6 if we were lucky. The news hit like a freight train. One day she's complaining about back pain. 2 weeks later, we're discussing hospice care. The doctor's appointment where we got the diagnosis is burned into my memory. Mom sitting in that paper gown, Greg holding her hand. Me standing against the wall because there weren't enough chairs. The oncologist going through statistics and treatment options that wouldn't really help, just delay the inevitable. How long? Mom asked. Direct, practical, already accepting reality. 3 to 6 months. I'm sorry. She nodded like he'd told her the weather forecast. Asked about pain management. Didn't cry until we got to the parking lot. I took family leave from work. Spent every day at the hospital or her place. Helping with appointments, managing medications, just being there. It was brutal watching the strongest person I knew waste away. But I wasn't going to abandon her when she needed me most. The first week was the hardest. Watching her struggle to eat, lose weight rapidly, need help with basic tasks she'd done independently her whole life. This woman who'd raised me alone, who'd never asked for help with anything, suddenly couldn't shower without assistance. Riley was supportive at first, brought me food at the hospital, texted encouraging messages, understood when I canceled our plans. She'd show up with coffee and sit with Mom when I needed to step out, called to check in when I'd been there for hours. Did all the girlfriend things you're supposed to do. But after a few weeks, I could tell she was getting tired of it. Started making comments about how I was always at the hospital and how we never spent time together anymore. The texts got shorter, the calls got less frequent. When I did see her, she seemed distant, distracted. I tried explaining that my mom was dying, that I needed to be there for her final months. Riley would nod and say she understood, but her attitude said otherwise. She'd sigh when I said I couldn't make dinner plans, roll her eyes when I mentioned another doctor's appointment, make comments about how Greg was there too. So, why did I have to be there every single day? Your mom has a husband now, she said one night when I canceled our anniversary dinner. You don't have to do everything yourself. That comment stuck with me. Like my presence at my own mother's deathbed was somehow optional. Like I should be prioritizing date nights over saying goodbye to the woman who'd sacrificed everything for me. But I gave Riley the benefit of the doubt. Caregiving is hard on everyone, not just the primary caregiver, She was losing time with her boyfriend, losing the life we'd been building. I got it. I just thought she'd stick it out anyway because that's what you do when you love someone. About 6 weeks into Mom's diagnosis, Jared started coming around the hospital more often. Said he wanted to support Greg, wanted to be there for the family. Now, I appreciated it at the time. Thought he was finally growing up, being mature about a difficult situation. He'd show up with food for everyone, make small talk with the nurses, keep Greg company when he needed a break. Seemed like he was genuinely trying to help. I thanked him multiple times, told him it meant a lot that he was stepping up. What I didn't know was that he and Riley had been talking a lot. It started innocently enough. He'd ask how I was doing. She'd give him updates when I was too exhausted to respond to texts. Made sense. My girlfriend and stepbrother coordinating to support me during a difficult time. Nothing weird about that. Then they started meeting for coffee, to discuss how to best support me. Then those coffee meetups became lunch. Then dinner. Looking back, the signs were obvious. But at the time, my brain couldn't process that level of betrayal. Why would it? I was watching my mom die. I was completely oblivious. My mom was dying. I was watching her fade away a little more each day, watching this vibrant woman who'd raised me alone become a shell of herself. The last thing on my mind was whether my girlfriend and stepbrother were getting too friendly. The week before it happened, Mom had been in serious decline. She'd stopped eating almost entirely, could barely stay awake for more than an hour. The nurses were increasing her pain medication every few days, trying to keep her comfortable as her body shut down. I slept at the hospital 4 nights that week in one of those horrible chairs that reclines maybe 30 degrees, waking up every hour when the nurses came to check vitals. My back was killing me. I looked like I'd been hit by a truck, but I couldn't leave her alone. The night it happened, I was at the hospital. Mom had taken a bad turn. Breathing problems, severe pain. The doctors weren't sure she'd make it through the night. Her oxygen levels kept dropping, and they'd increased her morphine to the point where she was barely conscious. I sat there holding her hand, watching the monitors, listening to her labored breathing. Greg was on the other side of the bed, looking 10 years older than he had 2 months ago. Neither of us spoke. What was there to say? Around 11 p.m., I texted Riley saying, I'd probably be there all night, not to wait up. She texted back within seconds. Okay, hope she's all right. Love you. That immediate response should have been my first clue. Riley usually took her time responding to texts, especially at night, but I was too focused on my mom to think about it. That was the last normal text I got from her. Around 3 a.m., Mom stabilized. Her breathing evened out. Oxygen levels came back up, and she fell into a deeper sleep. The nurses said I should go home and get some rest, that they'd call if anything changed. The night nurse, Patricia, had been taking care of Mom for weeks. She knew me by name, knew I hadn't slept properly in days. Go home, Nathan, she said gently. Take a shower. Sleep in a real bed. We've got her. I promise I'll call if anything changes. I was exhausted, running on maybe 4 hours of sleep total from the past 3 days. My eyes burned, my back ached from sleeping in chairs, and I smelled like hospital and stress sweat. The thought of my own bed, my own shower, clean clothes, it sounded like heaven. I kissed Mom's forehead and headed out. The drive home is a blur. I remember being so tired I had to blast the radio and roll down the windows to stay awake. It was 3:45 a.m. on a random Tuesday. The streets were empty and I just wanted to crash for a few hours before going back. Walked into my townhouse at 4:15 a.m. and immediately knew something was wrong. There was a car parked on the street I didn't recognize. Not Riley's, but somehow familiar. The living room light was on, which was weird because I always turned everything off. Then I heard sounds coming from upstairs, my bedroom. At first, I thought maybe I'd left the TV on, or something. My brain was so fried from exhaustion and stress that it took a second to process. Then I heard Riley's voice. Not words, just sounds. Then I heard Jared's voice responding. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for maybe 30 seconds, brain trying to process what I was hearing. Part of me wanted to believe there was some innocent explanation. Maybe Jared had come over to, I don't know, help with something. And Riley was just what? Showing him around at 4 a.m. But I'm not stupid. I knew exactly what was happening. The walk up those stairs felt like it took an hour. Each step, my brain was screaming at me to turn around, to leave, to not confirm what I already knew. But my feet kept moving. One step, then another, then another. I reached the top of the stairs. My bedroom door was closed, but not latched. I could see light underneath it. Heard them more clearly now. I opened the door. The scene is burned into my memory with perfect clarity. Riley was on top of Jared in my bed, the bed I'd bought with my own money when I moved into this place. The sheets I'd washed before going to the hospital 3 days ago because I actually cared about keeping my place clean. The room where I'd fallen asleep next to her hundreds of times. They both scrambled to cover themselves. The look on Riley's face, pure panic. Jared's face went from pleasure to horror in about half a second. Nobody said anything for what felt like an hour, but was probably 10 seconds. Time did this weird thing where it slowed down and sped up simultaneously. I noticed every detail. Riley's clothes on the floor, Jared's shoes by the door, the bottle of wine on my nightstand, the expensive kind Riley liked that I'd been saving for a special occasion. My special occasion, apparently. Finally, Riley spoke. Her voice was shaky, breathless. "Nathan, I can explain. Get out. Please. Just let me get out now." She started crying, pulling on clothes while apologizing in between sobs. "I'm so sorry. We didn't mean for this to happen. I don't care. Get your stuff and leave." Jared just sat there with the sheet pulled up, staring at me like a deer in headlights. He looked young suddenly, like the 13-year-old kid who'd moved into my room all those years ago, caught doing something he knew was wrong. "You, too," I said to him. "Get your stuff and get out of my house before I make you leave." "Bro, I'm so sorry. It just happened. Don't call me bro. Don't ever call me that again. You're not my brother. Get out before I physically throw you out." He must have seen something in my face because he didn't argue. Just grabbed his clothes and got dressed faster than I've ever seen anyone move. They both practically ran down the stairs and out the front door. I heard Riley's car start, heard it pull away, then silence. I stood in my bedroom looking at my bed and felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, just this weird, empty feeling like my brain had hit maximum capacity for awful things and just shut down all emotional processing. My mom was dying in a hospital bed 5 miles away, and the two people who were supposed to support me through it had decided that was the perfect time to hook up in my own bed. The practical part of my brain kicked in. I stripped the bed methodically, pulling off the sheets, the comforter, the pillows, everything. Stuffed it all into garbage bags. Didn't even consider washing it. Just wanted it gone. The mattress was new enough that I wasn't getting rid of that. But everything else went straight into the trash. I took a shower. The hot water ran out before I was done. Didn't care. Just stood there under cold water trying to process what had just happened. When I got out, I looked at my phone. 7 missed calls from Riley. 12 texts, 3 voicemail notifications, deleted all of them without reading or listening, blocked her number, blocked Jared's number, blocked both of them on every social media platform I could think of. Then I sat on my couch and stared at the wall until the sun came up. Watched the light change from dark to gray to that weird orange morning glow. Didn't think about anything, just existed. I went back to the hospital. Mom was awake, looking a little better, asked where I'd been, and I lied. Said, I'd just gone home to shower and change. Spent the rest of the day with her, holding her hand, listening to her talk about memories from when I was a kid. She died 2 days later, peaceful, surrounded by family. I held it together through the funeral, the reception, all of it. Played the strong son who had everything under control. Greg pulled me aside after the funeral. Jared told me what happened. I'm so sorry, Nathan. I raised him better than that. It's not your fault, still, if you need anything. I'm good. Thanks. That was the last real conversation we had. Greg's a decent guy, but Jared's his son. I wasn't going to make him choose, and he wasn't going to cut off his kid over this. We just drifted apart after that. 3 days after the funeral, both Riley and Jared showed up at my door together. I opened it just wide enough to see them. Riley's eyes were puffy from crying. Jared looked like he hadn't slept in a week. We need to talk, Riley said. No, we don't. Please. We owe you an explanation. You don't owe me anything. We're done. Leave. Jared stepped forward. Man, I know what we did was wrong. You know what you did was wrong. Wow. Thanks for that incredible insight. Now, leave before I call the cops for trespassing. It just happened, Riley blurted out. We didn't plan it. We weren't trying to hurt you. It just happened. We feel terrible. I actually laughed at that. Just happened. Like they'd accidentally tripped and fallen into each other multiple times. You feel terrible. Got it. Now you can feel terrible somewhere else. I closed the door and locked it. They knocked for another 5 minutes before finally leaving. That should have been the end of it. They'd move on. I'd move on. Life continues. But the universe had other plans. About 2 weeks after my mom's funeral, I started hearing things through mutual friends. Riley and Jared had started dating officially. Public relationship status on social media, couple photos, the whole thing. At first, I was pissed. Not because I wanted Riley back. That ship had sailed and sunk. But because of how quickly they'd moved on. My mom had been dead for 2 weeks, and they were posting cute couple selfies. But then I realized something. They actually thought they were in love. That this wasn't just a hookup, but some kind of destiny romance. That hurting me was worth it because they'd found their soulmate. That's when I decided to completely cut them off. Not just blocking their numbers, but a total social media purge. Unfriended, blocked, removed from everything. Told our mutual friends I didn't want to hear about them, didn't want updates, didn't want to know what they were doing. Some friends understood. Some thought I was being petty. The ones who thought I was petty aren't my friends anymore. I threw myself into work, picked up extra projects, volunteered for the jobs nobody else wanted. Within 6 months, I got promoted to senior project manager with a substantial raise. Used the extra money to renovate my townhouse. New furniture, painted everything. Basically erased any trace of Riley from my space. Started going to the gym regularly. Not because I was trying to get revenge or whatever, but because I needed somewhere to put all the energy I used to spend on relationships. Got into running. Started doing tanks, then half marathons. The physical exhaustion helped with the mental exhaustion. I also started reconnecting with old friends I'd neglected during my relationship with Riley. Guys from my construction days, people from my certification courses, neighbors I'd never bothered to really talk to. Built an actual social circle instead of just existing in Riley's world. My life got better. Not perfect, but better. I was functioning, moving forward, not dwelling on the past. Meanwhile, according to the friend grapevine I couldn't completely avoid, Riley and Jared's relationship was intense. Lots of drama, constant posts about their journey together, that kind of thing. They moved in together after 3 months, which seemed fast, but whatever. Not my circus, not my monkeys. The first crack appeared around the 8-month mark. One of our mutual friends, Dave, mentioned that they'd had a huge fight at a party. Something about Jared talking to another girl and Riley losing it. They'd apparently worked through it, but the vibe was off. I didn't ask for details, just said okay and changed the subject. A few weeks later, another friend mentioned seeing them argue at a restaurant. Then someone else said Riley had posted something cryptic about trust issues before deleting it. I genuinely didn't care. They had made their choice. Now they were living with it. If their relationship was falling apart, that was on them. Then almost exactly 1 year after that night, I found them in my bed. My phone rang. Unknown number. I usually don't answer those, but I was expecting a call from a contractor and thought it might be him. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then Nathan, it's Jared. I should have hung up immediately, but curiosity got the better of me. What do you want? I need help. I know I don't deserve it, but I need. His voice cracked. He was crying. I need a place to stay just for a few days, please. What happened, Riley? More crying. She cheated on me with my cousin last night. I found out this morning, and I don't have anywhere to go. I sat there for a second processing, then I started laughing. Not a little chuckle, but a full-on belly laugh. Dude, what the hell? Let me guess, I said, still laughing. It just happened, right? She didn't plan it. She feels terrible. Silence. That's what she said, isn't it? The exact same thing you both told me. Please, I know I screwed up. Sounds like it just happened. Hope you guys work through it. I hung up. He called back immediately. I blocked the number. Over the next few days, I got texts from 3 different numbers, probably borrowed phones, all from Jared, all begging for help, a place to stay, someone to talk to. I blocked every single one without responding. Then Greg called. That one I answered out of respect for him. Nathan, I know you don't owe Jared anything. You're right. I don't. He's in a bad place. He made a mistake. He made a choice. A deliberate, conscious choice to sleep with my girlfriend while my mom was dying. Now he's dealing with the consequences of his choices. Not my problem. He's family. No, he's not. We were stepbros. Past tense. He stopped being family the night he betrayed me. Greg sighed. I understand you're angry. I'm not angry. I'm indifferent. Anger would mean I care. I don't. Tell Jared to figure it out himself. I hung up and blocked Greg's number too. Felt bad about that one, but I couldn't have him calling to advocate for Jared every time his son screwed up. The mutual friend updates started coming faster after that. Apparently, Jared was crashing on various couches. Couldn't afford his own place since he and Riley had been splitting rent. Riley was posting cryptic messages about betrayal and learning who really loves you. The irony was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Dave came by my place about a week after Jared's call. We were working on a project together, and he needed to drop off some documents. So, I heard about Jared and Riley, he said, clearly fishing for my reaction. Okay, you really not going to help him out even after everything? Especially after everything. Come on, man. He's struggling. I saw him last night and he looks rough. Lost weight, not sleeping, the whole thing. And Dave looked at me like I'd grown a second head. And you don't feel even a little bad? I mean, yeah, he messed up, but karma already got him. Riley cheating was basically cosmic justice. Cosmic justice would be me caring about his problems after he deliberately hurt me when I was at my lowest point. But I don't. So, I guess the universe needs to try harder. That's cold. That's reality. You mess with people's lives. Sometimes those people stop caring when your life falls apart. Dave left shortly after that. I could tell he thought I was being unnecessarily harsh. But here's the thing. I'd spent a year rebuilding my life. A year processing my mom's death without the support I should have had. A year learning to trust people again. I wasn't going to throw that away because Jared finally experienced a fraction of what he'd put me through. About 2 weeks after the initial call, I ran into Riley at the grocery store. Literally almost collided with her turning down the cereal aisle. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie. Nothing like the put-together office manager I used to know. Nathan, she said, stopping her cart. Hey, Riley. I moved to step around her. Wait. Can we talk just for a minute? No. Please. I need to explain. You explained a year ago. It just happened. You felt terrible. Remember? Her eyes filled with tears. I know I hurt you. I know what we did was unforgivable, but I'm going through something really difficult right now, and I could use a friend. Then call a friend. I'm not your friend. I'm not anything to you. I made a mistake. You made multiple mistakes repeatedly over an extended period of time. Those are called choices, not mistakes. I'm sorry. I'm sure you are. Sorry it didn't work out with Jared. Sorry you're dealing with consequences. Sorry you can't use me as your emotional support anymore. But none of that changes anything. I walked away. She called after me, but I didn't stop. Got my groceries, went home, and went about my day. That night, I got a long text from an unknown number. Definitely Riley based on the writing style and the oversharing. She went into detail about how Jared had been distant the last few months, how his cousin had been so understanding about their relationship struggles, how she'd gone to the cousin for advice, and one thing led to another. It just happened. She talked about how she'd realized what she had with me was real, and what she had with Jared was just confusion and guilt manifesting as feelings. She said she'd grown as a person, learned from her mistakes, and wanted a chance to make things right. I deleted the text without finishing it, and blocked that number too. The messages kept coming though. Different numbers, social media accounts I hadn't blocked, even an email to my work address, all from Riley. All variations of the same theme. She was sorry she'd changed. Couldn't we at least talk? I set up email filters and kept blocking numbers. Never responded to a single one. Jared tried a different approach. Instead of begging, he got angry. Sent messages about how I was holding a grudge and being vindictive and how family forgives family. How he'd been there for me during my mom's illness, the audacity, and I should return the favor. I actually responded to one of those. You're right. Family forgives family, which is why it's good we're not family. Blocked that number too. The mutual friends started taking sides. About half thought I was justified. The other half thought I was being cruel. The ones who thought I was cruel kept bringing up how much Jared and Riley were struggling, like that was supposed to make me care. Jared's living in his car, one friend told me at a barbecue. That's rough, I said, completely deadpan. You really don't care? Why would I? He didn't care about me when I was watching my mom die and he was sleeping with my girlfriend. That was different. How? They couldn't answer that. Riley apparently moved back in with her parents after she couldn't afford rent alone, lost her job because she'd been too distracted by personal drama to function professionally. According to the grapevine, she was working retail now and hating every minute of it. Part of me wondered if I should feel bad, if maybe I was being too harsh, holding on to anger for too long. But here's the thing, I wasn't angry. I genuinely didn't care. Their lives falling apart didn't make me happy or sad. It just was. They'd made choices that hurt me when I was vulnerable. Now they were facing consequences for their choices and expecting me to help them avoid those consequences. That's not how life works. I'm not their safety net. I'm not their second chance. I'm not their redemption arc. I'm just a guy who learned that some people will betray you at your lowest point. And the best revenge is building a life they can't touch. 3 months after that initial call from Jared, I was at a work event. Industry mixer, lots of networking. The kind of thing I used to dread but now actually enjoyed. I'd become pretty good at small talk, at making connections, at existing in professional spaces without Riley as my social crutch. I was talking to a potential client when I saw her across the room. Riley, wearing a catering uniform, holding a tray of appetizers. Our eyes met. She looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. I just nodded slightly and went back to my conversation. She came by about 20 minutes later with her tray. Stuffed mushroom? No thanks. She lingered for a second, clearly wanting to say something. I turned slightly, physically cutting her out of the conversation. She got the hint and moved on. After the event, she was waiting by my car. Had to give her credit for persistence, even if it was misplaced. Please don't call security, she said as I approached. I just want to say one thing. I unlocked my car, but didn't get in. You've got 30 seconds. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was terrible. I'm not asking you to forget or to be friends or anything like that. I just want you to know that I understand now what I threw away, what we had. And I'm sorry. Truly sorry. Not because my life fell apart, but because I hurt you when you needed me most. I looked at her. Really looked at her. She seemed sincere, broken, exhausted, but sincere. Okay, I said. She blinked. Okay? Yeah. Okay. I heard you. You're sorry. I accept that you're sorry. Her face lit up with hope. Does that mean? It means nothing. You're sorry. Great. That doesn't change anything that happened. Doesn't make us friends. Doesn't mean I'm going to help you or Jared or involve myself in your lives in any way. It just means I acknowledge that you said you're sorry. The hope died in her eyes. So that's it? We just... nothing? We were always nothing. You ended that a year ago. I'm just accepting reality. I loved you. No, you didn't. If you loved me, you wouldn't have done what you did. What you felt was comfort, security, the benefits of dating someone stable. That's not the same as love. She started crying. I was young and stupid and confused. You were 26. That's old enough to know better. You made a choice. Now live with it. I got in my car and drove away. Watched her in my rearview mirror, standing in the parking lot, crying into her hands. Felt nothing. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from either of them since. Last I heard through the grapevine, Jared moved to a different state to start fresh. Riley's still working retail and living with her parents. My life, it's good. Better than good, actually. I got another promotion, started dating someone new, a woman named Lauren who works in civil engineering. She's smart, independent, and more importantly, she's trustworthy. We're taking it slow, building something real, instead of rushing into intensity. I bought a new place, a bigger townhouse in a better neighborhood. Got a dog, a rescue mutt named Cooper, who's the best judge of character I've ever met. He growls at people who aren't trustworthy. Would have been useful a few years ago. My friend circle is solid. People who showed up when my mom died and stuck around after. People who didn't make excuses for betrayal or try to convince me to forgive the unforgivable. Sometimes I think about what my life would look like if I'd helped Jared, if I'd taken Riley's calls, if I'd been the bigger person and offered forgiveness and support, and then I remember that being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat, that forgiveness doesn't erase consequences, that some bridges need to stay burned. Could I have helped Jared? Sure, I had a spare room. Could have let him crash for a few weeks while he got back on his feet. Would it have killed me? No. But it also would have sent a message that betraying me has no real consequences, that you can hurt me when I'm at my most vulnerable, and I'll still be there when you need me. That's not the message I want to send. Not to Jared, not to Riley, not to anyone. You treat people like they're disposable. Eventually you become disposable to them. That's not cruelty. That's just cause and effect. Some of the mutual friends who sided with Jared and Riley have reached out recently. Apparently, seeing how well I'm doing versus how much they're struggling has made people reconsider their positions. Dave called last month to apologize. Said he didn't understand at the time, but he gets it now. His girlfriend had cheated on him, and he tried to forgive her. It hadn't worked. He understood now why I'd cut them off completely. I appreciated the apology, but I'd already moved on from Dave too. We're friendly when we see each other at work events, but we're not friends anymore. Too much water under that bridge. The thing is, I don't need people to understand my choices. I don't need validation for protecting my peace. I know what they did. I know how it affected me. That's enough. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come.